Hi guys, Tatiana here. In this video, I want to talk a little bit about why it even matters for us to heal our wounded hearts. So in my book, I make my thesis, or one of the main points that I want to get across, is that it really behooves us to heal our own personal wounds. And so there are several ways to look at this, but in essence, we find when we look at the philosophy of yoga that suffering is sort of an inescapable experience so long as we are embodied. In fact, the first noble truth of Buddhism is that there will be suffering because we are in this transient experience of life, and change often causes us to have suffering. If you even think about the beginning of our lives and birth, there's a physical pain for oftentimes for both mama and baby. That's just part of being in the world, part of being human. And yet also there is a way out of suffering. But what tends to happen is that we have traumas, or we have pains, or we have suffering in our lives, and the way in which we relate to those pains really affects the way in which we relate to the rest of our lives. So a couple of the directions in which that pain tends to go within us is that, let's say something happens that really causes us to stop and put sort of our life on halt. Either we take those experiences and sort of put them away because in the back of our minds we know, hey, I have to keep going on with my life, I have to continue living. And so we sort of store them in, the attic of our consciousness. And we say, all right, and then we close that door. And once we close that door, we never want to go there. And so that's one way of sort of separating ourselves from our trauma or from our pain. Another way in which we might deal with that pain is almost the exact opposite. Where we are living in the energy of that pain and of that suffering. And what that looks like is when we can't see life outside of that pain, and everything is sort of interpreted through that. So for example, you have the breakup and you're going through that process where every song you hear, every street you cross reminds you of that person. And so you're very much triggered in the energy of the pain. So we have all these ways in which we experience suffering, and we know that it's just a part of being here, and yet we're not really taught how to deal with that, or what to do with it. The saving grace is that the teachings of yoga and these ancient teachings that are really a map through our consciousness have so much wisdom with what to do with that. What I'm here to say though is that when we heal ourselves, we do it primarily, that's the first layer. We heal ourselves and our life improves. But really there's so much more at stake. And my thesis is that we are contextual beings. There is no us and them. There is no me and you over there. Whatever, it's like the butterfly effect. Whatever I do is going to affect you, because we're all in the same tapestry of our lives together, of our community together. And so if I'm hurting, you're going to have that's going to be affected. You're going to be affected by that in some way or another. So really, the task of healing ourselves, yes, of course we do it for ourselves, but we also do it for our communities. And those of us that are doing a lot of activist work, a lot of work in really changing, and we have a lot of big societal wounds right now, really we got to start here. When we do this work, it can't not emanate outwards. And not only outwards, sort of in the greater span of our communities, but onwards in time into our future generations, right? Because the unhealed wounds that we have are the ones that our kids are going to deal with. And so really it behooves us to do this work, not just for ourselves, not just for our families, not just for our communities, not just for our progeny, but really for the entire scope of all of that. And we sometimes don't realize how powerful our small hurts are. And how even more powerful the healing those personal wounds can really be. So that is my message of why it's so important to do this healing work. Thanks so much.